let's stick on the topic of offensive coordinators, man. Eric Bieniemy, now you guys already know I'm really high on Eric Bieniemy. And many people in the national media have been going to war for this guy for over the last 3 years that Eric Bieniemy should be an NFL head coach. Like, literally, bro, there's literally people that I believe right now in the national media that are willing to protest for Eric Bieniemy being a head coach. And this dude had a really significant impact on the Kansas City Chiefs, winning the couple of Super Bowls that they have won when he was on Kansas City staff over the last 5 years. There were 2 plays in this past year's Super Bowl in the Chiefs' win over the Eagles where they scored 2 touchdowns in the red zone due to a play that Eric Bieniemy saw on film that the Philadelphia Eagles defense struggled to stop. And he ended up seeing that on film. He ended up bringing it to Andy Reid's attention. They put it in the game plan. And that play was a large reason why they ended up beating Philadelphia. And if you don't know the play I'm talking about, it's that little motion play that they have where they send the guy in motion and he comes right back out. They scored 2 touchdowns off that play. Eric Bieniemy is a really bright offensive mind. And if this dude is as good as a coach as many people on ESPN, FS1, and whoever else make him out to be, he should be able to elevate Sam Howell. People were getting really upset at me because I said that Sam Howell is going to have the best season out of all the second-year QBs. And my reasoning for that was because of Eric Bieniemy's tutelage. If you have a good offensive coordinator, he's going to be able to elevate the play of the whole entire offense. Washington has a really good team around Sam Howell. They're going to have an elite defense. Their defense has been elite ever since Ron Rivera has took over as the head coach there. So all they need is for this offense to hold up and do their part, and this without a doubt is a playoff team. You got Curtis Samuel, Scary Terry, arguably a top wide receiver in the game right now. You have Jahan Dotson, who is on pace to having a really good rookie season until he got held back due to injuries. You got Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson in the backfield. The offensive line is a little shaky, but it should improve under Eric Bieniemy calling the plays. If Washington doesn't make it to the playoffs this year, I don't want to hear any more talk and any more arguments about how Eric Bieniemy deserves to be a head coach. Because if this team doesn't make it to the postseason, 9 times out of 10, that means that this offense wasn't good. Scott Turner was not a good offensive coordinator. This offense was below average. This offense is what kept the Commanders from making it to the playoffs last year. This team went 8-1. That's what some people tend to forget at times. This team was a quarterback away or a good offensive coordinator away from being in the playoffs. And if Eric Bieniemy comes in and he ends up being as good as a head coach as many people expect him to be when he ends up getting that opportunity, there's no reason why he shouldn't be a good offensive coordinator. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and everybody who has played or coached under Eric Bieniemy has had nothing but good things to say about this dude. The only issues that I hear when it comes to Eric Bieniemy is that he's really tough at times when it comes to how he comes at players. He's a little bit, hard on players, really hard on them because he holds them accountable. I saw a clip on TikTok when he was coaching, or I guess he was on Minnesota staff, and Adrian Peterson came to practice late. And I don't know if he was serious or if it was a little joke, but he basically said, damn, bro, like, what you doing coming late? And Adrian Peterson was like, oh, it was the trainers and stuff. They were telling me. He was like, man, I ain't trying to hear all that, man. Be accountable. Show up on time. No excuses. So if Eric Bieniemy, if his only issues is that he comes at players really hard at times because he holds them accountable, I think that makes him an even better coach. You see, there's nothing wrong with being coached hard. A lot of people in this generation now are a little soft. They can't take hard coaching. Hard coaching is what brings the best out of you. Now, there are certain things that as a coach, you probably shouldn't say to players, and there is a certain line that shouldn't be crossed. But I think Eric Bieniemy is going to be perfectly fine when it comes to being able to get along with the players on the Commanders' offense. Sam Howell recently in one of his press conferences said, yeah, he coaches us pretty hard, but that's what they need. That's what's going to elevate the Commanders. This is a team that had Scott Turner as their OC. He was awful. He held this team back from making it to the postseason. Now with Eric Bieniemy, somebody who is one of the better offensive minds in the game at the helm calling the plays, this offense should be able to at least be top 12, top 13 in the league this year. This is a really talented unit. I've been going back and forth with New York Giants fans for the last 2 weeks because they feel that they have a more talented offense than Washington, and no the hell you don't. There's no way you're going to tell me that Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt are better than Jahan Dotson, Scary Terry, and Curtis Samuel. I mean, like, bruh, you got Daniel Jones at QB. All respect to Daniel Jones, but if Eric Bieniemy ends up being as good as a coach as many people expect him to be, Sam Howell's play should elevate. People make it seem like these players just coach themselves. No, they don't. They need to have somebody who puts them in a proper situation to succeed. You see, that's the problem with a lot of you people and why y'all record predictions always suck, because you just judge a team based on who the players are. You don't take time to dive into who is calling the plays, because the play calling and the coordinators are a large reason for some of these players' success. Some of these players leave certain teams and you never hear from them again. You want to know why? Because of different schemes that they don't fit in, or the play calling not being as good as what it was at their previous destination. If Sam Howell ends up having a good season, it's going to be largely due to Eric Bieniemy's play calling. This team has too much talent for this offense to not be good. Eric Bieniemy was a really big asset to Kansas City during his 5 years with that franchise. This dude is going to be able to elevate this whole entire team. And if this team doesn't end up making it to the playoffs, I think it's largely going to be due to this offense not being good under Eric Bieniemy calling plays. This is Eric Bieniemy's big chance to prove himself of why he deserves to be an NFL head coach. Now, I don't know why this dude can't get a head coaching job. Some people say it's because they don't know how much of Kansas City's success on offense he was responsible for. You got some people who believe that the situation with Patrick Mahomes and having Andy Reid there kind of undermined how much of an impact he had in that offense, having the success that he did. But now in Washington, if Washington's offense has any success, we know who's going to be behind it. This dude is even assigned to being an assistant coach for this team. So not only is he going to have all to say when it comes to the offense, but he's also going to have some additional responsibilities when it comes to managing this team, with duties as being the assistant coach. If the Washington Commanders make it to the playoffs, it's not just going to be because they're going to have an elite defense, but also because this offense is going to be good enough to get them there. When you got a good offense, that helps out your defense. That's what some people tend to overlook. If your defense constantly has to come back on the field due to your offense going 3 and out or not being able to sustain drives, of course it's going to hold them back. But when you have an offense that's able to take care of the football, that's able to sustain drives and be efficient, it helps your defense out, because then they're not on the field for so many plays. You want a good example of this? Look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense from 2019 compared to how good it was in 2020. The Buccaneers had an elite defense in 2019, but it just didn't show statistically. You want to know why? Because you had Jameis Turnover Winston turn the football over at an alarming rate. It's like every time the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got to stop on defense in 2019, 30 seconds later, after they got done sipping that cup of Gatorade, they were right back on the field. When you have an offense that can take care of the football and that can be efficient and keep drives going, it keeps your defense off the field, which gives those guys longer breaks. They don't get tired as fast. They don't get fatigued as fast. Eric Bieniemy His impact on the Commanders this season is going to be really big, and it's going to have a large determining factor when it comes to if the Washington Commanders make it to the playoffs or not. I really believe that Eric Bieniemy's success is going to make or break the Washington Commanders this season. If this guy ends up being phenomenal calling plays for Washington, like how many of us expect him to be, the Commanders, without a doubt, are going to be a playoff team because they already have a top 5 defense. I mean, their defensive line is arguably the best in the NFL. You can say it's just as good as the 49ers or the Philadelphia Eagles. You may not know that because how many of you guys are really watching the Washington Commanders? Come on, man. Like, this defense is elite. It's been elite nearly every single year that Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio have been up there in Washington. All they need is a good OC who can elevate this offense, and they need to have some stability at QB, which is something that they also haven't had, where they were going back and forth between Taylor Heinicke and Carson Wentz. Now you have Sam Howell, and Ron Rivera's banking on this guy being the franchise QB to lead them to the promised land. And when you have a good offensive coordinator, he's going to be able to help your young quarterback develop. He's going to be able to help your young quarterback become the guy that you want him to be to lead you to the playoffs. If Washington doesn't make it to the playoffs, I feel it's largely going to be because Eric Bieniemy was a whiff at offensive coordinator. But if they do, I think it's going to be because this offense was really good with him calling the plays. This defense already is top notch. All you need is the play calling to be there.